Hi, church. Today I wanted to share with you about a book that has been very influential in my life. I would say next to the Bible, it's probably the one that prompts the most growth in my life. In fact, I was just telling Beth, who is filming this, that I probably need to be practicing some of what's in this book more than telling you all about it, because it is at times like these when I'm maybe a little frustrated about something that the words come back to me. And the book is called If. It's by Amy Carmichael. Amy Carmichael was a missionary who spent the bulk of her life, over 50 years, in India without ever going back to Ireland, her home country, for a furlough. She completely immersed herself in the life of the people in India. And she spent a good deal of her life fighting against what we would term today human trafficking, saving young girls and boys from being made temple prostitutes. Often their families, because they were poor, they didn't have an income, they would sell their children to the priests to be temple prostitutes. And Amy Carmichael fought against this and made a home for these children. But in this book, If, she talks about some statements that came to her one night and that she just got up and wrote down just as they came. And then she shared them in her little fellowship there in India. Somebody else heard about them and asked that if they could print them. And initially her thought was no, because she felt like they were too personal. But then she thought if God had given her something, she really didn't have a right to keep it to herself. And so she shared it with others. I first became acquainted with this when I was 16, so obviously quite some time ago. And I bought this copy of it actually when I was 16, and you can see that it's kind of been well used. But one of the statements that always comes back to me is this one. She wrote, "If I can write an unkind letter, If I can write an unkind letter, speak an unkind word, think an unkind thought without grief or shame, then I know nothing of Calvary love." And that seems really harsh. I know nothing of Calvary love, but that was how the statements came to her, and so that's how she shared them. But it does make me think of 1 John chapter 4, where John wrote this: "By this the love of God was manifested in us, that God has sent his only begotten Son into the world so that we might live through him. In this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation," or the atoning sacrifice, "for our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another." Amy Carmichael's standard, as she wrote these if statements, was the love that Christ has shown to us. And often I'm tempted to justify, the unkind thoughts or the unkind words, the unkind actions by saying, I was provoked, or this is deserved. You don't know what I'm going through. But Amy's point was that we always are to measure our thoughts, our actions, our words against the love that was first demonstrated to us. And so I would encourage you today, you might look up that book, If, on the internet. You can actually find a PDF of it. You don't even have to purchase it, or you can get it on Amazon. But think about the love that was shown to you, to me, when Jesus left the glory of heaven, died on a cross for our sins. And then think about how we can extend that same kind of love to others.